there. This is 30, Wordy, and Friendship. My name is Aaliyah Bogdanoff, and I'm here with...
Hello, I'm Whitney Ensom.
And this is being a woman at every age and every stage. And we're here to talk about women issues, not the political ones. We're here to talk about what it's like to be a woman. We're both in our 30s, young 30s, but we have between us a lot of life experience in different stages. So why don't you start off and give a quick segment about yourself, and then I'll go next.
Sure. Well, hey, everybody. My name is Whitney, and I am a social worker. I work at a hospital. Help people who are going through hospice, and I like what I do. I like to hike. I'm a big hiker. I hike every week. Hiking makes me happy. My life's just pretty chill. I don't have any kids. I don't have a spouse, so it's pretty much just me being selfish all the time and doing what I want to do.
That sounds amazing. Just kidding. So my name is Aaliyah, and I'm 32, I think. At this part, I don't remember how old I am most days. I'm almost to the Jesus age is what I tell myself. And I am a stay-at-home mom, but I wasn't a stay-at-home mom. I was in business. I have a business degree. I loved it. I was in management. I was that go-getter, career starter, work your way up the ladder kind of girl, follow the rules, do everything. And then I had kids. And that really didn't slow me down at first. And then I had my daughter, and kind of forced me to stay home once I had two. And so I've been adjusting to mom life just in the last year. So I've actually hit my 1 year mark. So Whitney and I decided, we've got these two really different life perspectives, but we like to talk about a lot of different issues that we go through. And we do it, I think, in a very respectful way.
Yes.
And a pro-conflict, pro-disagreement way.
We see conflict as a tool for, just option for communication. It doesn't have to be a negative thing. We all have conflict in our relationships. So how do we deal with it in a way that keeps friendships intact? And I think it's possible. Do you think it's possible, Aaliyah?
I hate conflict, but I think it's possible to have it. And actually, do you wonder, every time I choose to have conflict with somebody, it always turns out good.
Completely.
I don't think there's ever been a time I was like, I'm going to speak my mind or my feelings and then be like, that was horrible. Next time I'm keeping my mouth shut. But every time I do, I actually feel better. But for some reason, I still question whether I should the next time. Like, no, I'm never doing this again. That was horrible.
But if we push it, I hear what you're saying. We push it down, ignore it, and pretend it's not happening. That's when these negative things happen behind the scenes, and then we end up feeling worse. And if we were just to go, yo, I'm mad, and kind of, in a much more graceful way. And I think you and I'd be like, yo, I'm mad. And you're like, okay, let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
Everybody wants to talk about it like that. But I think, when we actually say, I'm going to work through this, and we honor each other in that, I think it's totally possible. It's uncomfortable as heck, for sure.
Yeah.
I hate it.
I hate it.
I don't think there's a single person on this world who's like, gosh, I love conflict.
Such an opportunity for talking, speaking my mind.
I love to grow.
Love to grow. It
but
feels
then
good.
we look back, we're like, oh my gosh,
what a pivotal moment.
Look at the growth.
So today we're here to talk about friendship. 30, flirty, and friendship, I think, was our first way that we were going to title this episode. It's an untitled episode currently. It's the pilot episode of the Whitney and Aaliyah show.
Ow!
So we want to talk about friendship a little bit. So let's start, Whitney, by talking about what it means to be friends when you're 30 years old.
Love it.
Why don't you give us your experience of friendship in the snapshot of your life?
Absolutely. So I think for me, friendship has evolved over the years. You have the early adulthood, college time where you don't have a single clue who you are and you're trying to navigate it, and then you know that you need people in your life but don't necessarily know how to build community as much. And I think for me now, friendship looks like especially as a person who's not in the life stage of everyone at this age of life of 30, often people are married with kids, and so how do I enter into friendships with my friends who are in a different season as me? So I think for me, friendship today is I have friends of all ages, from 30 to older 20s all the way to like 60. The Lord's just given me some great women who are full of awesomeness at every stage. So I think it's really valuing that person for who they are and just kind of entering into being intentional with them. Maybe it doesn't happen all the time to hang out. You kind of just reach out. You're like, hey, how you doing? Friendship to me is mutual. It's not about just taking. It's about reciprocal relationship where you don't feel like you're having to fix anybody or rescue them, or we all are just trying to figure this out ourselves. So just being there for people, and kind of being okay with the different stages and the changes. I just kind of learned to roll with it. So friendships to me are incredibly important, to have that community of people behind me who are just there and who I can be there for as well.
Yeah, I think when you're older, the funny part, a friend and I talked about this the other day, is that when you're a kid, you walk up to somebody and you're like, hey, let's be friends. And you literally run together. And friendships just aren't that easy to make.
No.
I find that like friendships at this age take so much time and groundwork. I have friends who I have been friends with for a year, and I still feel like we're in beginning stages. We're like high school, college, those ages. It feels like there's all these things in our life that are just pushing friendships so hard. But once you hit a certain age, life doesn't demand friendship as much as it used to. It's not as much of a necessity, but it is a necessity to, in my opinion, to have a good life. And to feel fulfilled in life, you need those friendships. I find, I don't know what you feel, Whitney, but I find that the biggest thing that I struggle with in friendships is trust.
Yes.
There's a huge trust factor. I think because at 30 you've lived enough and you have to be honest enough where you have to tell your story a little bit.
Yep.
And not all of our stories are that pretty or packaged nicely.
Nope.
And so you have to find somebody who likes your story.
I love it. I love
Will
it.
listen to your story long enough for you to tell it and understand and not think you're weird.
And accept you for who you are.
Right? And then there's that like,
Yes.
when do I tell my story? When do
Yes.
I open up and say it?
Yes.
And then there's that moment. And
Girl.
there's so much. I remember when you and I had that moment where I think like first day I was just like, here's who I am. I mean, it's just, we all, right?
You're like, I want to be your friend, okay? Here's a friendship bracelet. No.
I think I was 7 when I became friends with you at 26. I was just like, you want to be friends? Okay.
Because I like you.
I like you. Yeah, I tend to be really forward. Okay.
Let's do this.
I'm very forward at friendship. It's really friendship forward is what I'm going to call it. I'm very
love it.
friendship forward.
Hashtag friendship forward.
But I don't. But my a friend of mine always says that I am not someone who trusts right away, and so she calls me an F to A person. I give someone an F, and then I make them prove to me that they get an A. Yes. And sometimes it's fast. Like with you, Whitney. It was like in 10 minutes, I was like, this girl has it and I want it. And I wanted to be your friend so bad because you had you felt like home to me when I met you. I know. Oh, I'm just touching my hand because we're sweet. But, not all friendships start that way.
No.
Sometimes you hang out with somebody and you go home and you're like, I really don't like them that much. But then you still hang out with them. I mean, like, we give people more chances and more chances because friendship does take time to grow.
It does.
And so I think it's important at this time, in this age, we ask, when I was working full time, the only people I was friends with were the people I worked with. I just didn't have time to cultivate these like amazing, we didn't go on, we didn't do anything together. I've got kids. I'm not going to go home and go to dinner with a friend. I'm going to go home and cook dinner and change diapers and sing and dance and then put people to bed. And I'm going to be exhausted. And so the idea of having fun with someone really was like not appealing. And then when I decided to stay home, it was the reverse. All of a sudden I had all this room for people in my life, and I started attending a mom's group, and I met a bunch of people, and I still hang out with those people and see them all the time.
Love it.
And the funny part about that is that those people are all surrounded around my lifestyle now. So my lifestyle now is they're all moms.
Yep.
And then of course I have my several gem friends who don't have kids, who actually I and the closest with.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because you still have to find a way to be friends while your stages are different.
Yeah. How do you be intentional at that time and understanding that other person might be different stage, busy, I think that's okay. And it does take time. I just agree with you about the trust part, because I think that's similar to how I am, where I'm very cautious at first, but I think the cool thing is you see those friendships that you have over the years develop, and you're like, this is where I'm at. I've entrusted you with these things, and I think that's wise. I think there's times where we do feel like with you and I, how it was just this instant connection. That's that those things happen too. So I think friendship is just whatever happens, as long as I feel comfortable with that person saying, yeah, I can see myself, maybe not at this moment, I can see myself trusting them with blah, 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 blah. And over time that builds, and then you realize you have a friend for life. So, yeah.
So the next topic we want to talk about is breakups, friendship breakups. We all have that moment in almost every friendship where you're mad at the other person.
Totes.
And what they're doing is really rubbing you the wrong way.
Ridiculous.
You don't know whether the friendship, this is the thing,
Yep.
is the friendship worth confronting that person?
Yep.
Or do you just fade them out? And we all do it. I had a conflict recently, and I asked a bunch of people how I should handle it. It was a new friendship.
Yep.
And like 90% of the people I polled with my life said I should just stop responding to people. And that was amazing to me because that is this knee-jerk reaction. And I think what it's about is really we evaluate the worth of a friendship in our life. So how do we, Whitney, let's talk about the conflict in friendship and how we go about confronting people and how we go about deciding whether or not friendships are worth getting to the other side with.
Man, Aaliyah, let me think about this for a minute. Well, breaking up stinks. Yes, and I think I like to avoid it at all costs, right? So I think over time I've tried to be better at communication, to be assertive before things kind of go super sour, to say, yo, I don't really like that thing that happened. Can we talk about it? And I think that takes a lot of courage to be able to confront in a loving way, to say, hey, I love you enough to let you know that this is something I'm struggling with, that I don't like, or check in with that person, like, hey, I don't know about this thing, and giving that person an opportunity to also be real. And I think when we create stories of what we think is happening, and sometimes when we, at least that I've found, when I talk with people about it and kind of work it out, there's times where it can be salvaged. There are times where it can't. I've had times of having to kind of step back and evaluating how healthy it is for me or not. Patterns in the past of recognizing, like, I know what this is, and realizing, is this something I should give my energy to? I don't want to ghost anybody. Is that what the kids say these days? I don't want to ghost anybody. So I try not to ghost. I think I ghosted in my 20s, but try not to ghost in my 30s. And
like pretending like you didn't get a text, or pretending hey, sorry about that. I've been really busy lately. That is the reason why I haven't responded to you, is because I've been busy, which I think is like such a coined phrase now.
Like, I don't believe anybody that says they're busy.
No one is really that busy.
No one is really that busy to deal with
every
things.
text that I receive.
Yeah.
I check every text. It's not like, oops, I missed that text. Text is the whole point of text, is that we are on our phones constantly.
Yeah. I can see when you read my text, girl.
You're like, and she read. And then the part that I think about friendship is so funny is like, I think in your 30s, like, there's this pull to not be emotional about friendships, to almost like not care. Like, I don't care that much. Look at me, I'm super chill. I don't care about my friendship that much. I'm never hurt. I'm never bothered. There's just like this, like, we have too much responsibilities in our life to bother with trying to fix conflict. So we just kind of maintain all these relationships. And I gotta say, I kind of hate that. I hate just maintaining all our friendships. But every friendship comes to a point where you have to confront. And I've had some good confrontations, and then I've had some disappointing ones. I think sometimes I've confronted somebody, maybe not like there was something wrong, but I challenged the friendship in a way of like, hey, let's talk about this topic, or hey, and I feel like the response was kind of disappointing. Like, wow, you're not as deep of a person as I thought. You really don't want to go there. And then I think with that, the hard part is that I really don't, at that stage, I don't want to go any further because I realize there's not much there to work with. So that's kind of an interesting thing to do when you're 30 because I could survive without friends. Yeah. I've got my husband and my kids, and that could fill up all of my time.
Completely.
But then I would have nobody to really give back because I, as a mother and a wife, I feel like I serve people too long.
Gotta have your bucket filled. We need community, right? Whatever season we're in, how do we navigate that and make that intentional? But yeah, relationships are hard and they are worth it. I think whatever age we are, but I think you're completely right that that means we have to be even more intentional as we move forward in life, and we should care more. And yes. I think I care more and I have healthier relationships because I've been intentional about saying, hey, I don't like this, let's talk about it.
Right.
Instead of kind of pulling away. But I think finding, that wisdom and knowing, is this friendship something I should continue with?
Right.
Because there's times where I don't want to give that much energy.
You have to pull the plug.
Gotta pull the plug.
On your dying friendship.
Gosh. Thank you. As a palliative social worker, I totally get that.
That is the worst kind of analogy. No more life support analogies. Now all I'm going to do is do life support analogies for the rest of the show. I'm just going.
I love it.
All right.
Okay, moving on.
Okay, so we talk a little bit about what happens when you don't make up. How do you recover from a friendship? And I think I'm going to segue this into our last point.
Yes.
So Whitney and I used to be friends. We were once friends. We're friends again, thankfully, but we were friends for a period of our life, and then we had a breakup.
We did.
And inevitably a makeup. But we had, what was it? Was it 3 years?
4 years.
4 years? We had 4 years where we were not friends. And she was that friend story that I told, this one friend did this to me. And she was horrible. And the reason we found our way back to each other was because we had mutual friends. Her best friend was married to my husband's best friend. And so they had to navigate around us. And every once in a while I would be forced to see her, and I would have to plan, what am I going to say? How am I going to act? How hard am I going to hug her? Am I going to hug her?
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, right? Had to analyze how I'm going to act, keep all my feelings locked away, protect myself from what happened, and not bring up anything. And then afterwards analyze everything you said and did.
Well, obviously.
Right? Because that's what we do. We don't like somebody. We're like, what did they do and say? And what did it mean? They grabbed the napkin this way. They could have grabbed it that way. Did you find that interesting? And my husband was like, I think you guys are dumb and you should just be friends again.
We heard that from pretty much everybody.
But we just had so much to fight about. So, so we had a friendship that broke up over, what would you say? I would say it was a misunderstanding if we had to put it in a box. It was both of us still learning how to be friends, a misunderstanding, and then really both of us, we kind of both did the same thing with people. When we had a major conflict, we didn't really know how to work it out, and so we pulled away. So we kind of both pulled in the opposite direction and hurt each other in the process. And then
I agree with you. That's a good box to put it in.
And then you, Whitney, came to me one day and said, I want to meet for dinner. And I remember that text. I really didn't want to answer it. I was like, sorry, I've been really busy. I haven't answered your text in a while.
Busy.
I'm so busy right now. No, you said you wanted to meet with me, and that was, for me, that was a really powerful moment because somebody who from my past wanted to talk things through. So why don't you tell me really quick, why did you do that? Why'd you do that to me? And then give me your rundown of your thought process.
So I think that my thought, so our friend, she definitely would let me know what was going on in your life. A little
Gossiper.
Bit. No, in a good way.
Yeah.
But hey, and I think I realized as seasons changed for them and for you guys, for you and your husband, that there was this awareness of I need to decide I can't be uncomfortable every time we hang out.
Right.
That's just not good.
Yeah.
And with my, with wanting to, I don't know, I think I felt the Lord totally tapping on my shoulder and being like, hey, I know you've been hurt. Do you want to hold on to this bitterness for the rest of your life? No. Are you able to extend grace? Are you able to also, I don't know, just be real and listen to the pain that she felt? And I was like, no. But then I thought, maybe I should. So we saw each other a few times, and I texted you, and I was like, hey, we should meet up. And it was the most terrifying thing I think I've experienced in a long time.
I'm so proud of you, though. It's so brave. You're just the bravest person.
And you were brave back, because you said yes. And
and we met for Japanese food.
And I think what's been cool about this is we both had because of how awesome you are and your instant feeling of like, I need a Whitney in my life, and me being like, oh, okay, I'll have an Aaliyah in my life. She's bubbly and fun. There was
I'm
just
not bubbly at all.
Not at
That's
all.
a lie.
It's gotten sucked out of your life
a few times.
But for real though, I think the cool thing about this is when you do have a breakup, it doesn't have to be the end of a friendship.
Yeah.
So I think you also have to evaluate, I had to evaluate what's going to be different this time. We both did. We said, what's going to be different this time, which I thought was very mature, because it could have ended up going this like full force again and then,
crash and burn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we knew better from last time to be like, hey, let's just do this slowly.
Okay,
And
the thing, real quick,
yes.
the thing that really impacted me, this I think is write this down, people. She literally said to me at dinner, I want to hear your side of the story. I mean, that's legit. That's like someone coming to you being like, hey, we had this thing go down and you probably got hurt. You want to tell me about it? And she let me talk about what happened on my, she didn't, and in a way that I felt like I could say, like, you did this and that really hurt me and I thought it was very wrong. And then in hindsight, I allowed her to then talk too. So like she extended grace to me, I extended it back. Absolutely. We had this great talk, and I really was able, I felt like there was just such a freedom to express myself. I felt like I could say, like, yeah, you're right, I did that really poorly. And I felt all this ability to really backtrack and think about the way I did friendship when we were friends in my late 20s. And I wasn't good at friendship then. I think the people who know me now, who were friends with me then, they don't notice that I was bad, I don't think. But I noticed. And I think the kind of friendships we had didn't rely on me being there on a consistent basis. So I could really get away with a lot of bad behavior. I'm not talking about like I stole from people or like did anything shady.
No,
I'm talking about
shady.
like I'm talking about the real stuff, like attachment issues. Like I didn't feel the need to attach to anybody, and I didn't feel the need to be anybody's real friend. I felt like I could get away with just kind of being there ever so often for myself.
so I think it's her child. It's her child in the background. There's no neglect. She's just chilling. But yeah, I think
That was my child throwing a toy at the window.
Go take care of your children.
Okay.
Let me say something else. So I think that there is this this point where we say, do I really want to try to heal this? And I think that the answer isn't always yes, but I think when we are our healthiest selves and we kind of take a look at what kind of our part is in what happened, then we can really move forward with it. So I'm grateful that we were able to kind of heal that.
All right, we're back from a quick pause where my children were running amok, and I am now nursing a child. That's how real this is. That makes you uncomfortable. I'm really sorry, but I'm not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry.
Kids have needs, and I'm a mother, so this is what is happening.
That's real. So I think that this is really cool to think about, and I'm just so glad that our friendship has been restored. I think that that's not always possible, but when it is, I think you fight for it. And I think that we totally have done the work. So, yeah, I'm just really proud of us and our maturity.
Well, and now, the thing I noticed about us now, Whitney, is that I'm really not afraid to tell you stuff when I don't agree with you. I used to feel like I tiptoed around you, not because of you, but because I didn't know how to say things to you. But now we've literally broken up and come back together. So now the weird part about it is that, like, I'm just not afraid of you anymore. And I'm not afraid of losing you because you came back to me. So like, I've already lost you, and I already know that I trust that you're going to come back. So there's not like this weird fear of pushing or putting any kind of pressure on our friendship, because basically the redemptive value of our friendship is now created this super, super trust.
Yes.
And when we talked about doing this podcast, we first initially discussed whether we could do this, and my husband said, how are you going to do this with somebody? What if you have disagreements? And I said, well, we're just gonna have to work that part out, because I know that I can tell Whitney if I don't like an idea. I know that we can collaborate on things. I know that we can do stuff together. So
yes,
yeah,
I'm not afraid of you either.
And we even talked about how would we confront each other and say, I don't like that idea, that's a horrible idea.
And I think that should be a next conversation, or one in the future, about if we want to continue the confrontation. But communication is so important, and I think we've done that part. So sometimes it looks I think it should look different after people break up. It's not supposed to be the same.
So just to wrap up our talk today, we wanted to just talk a little bit about what this podcast is going to look like in the future. I have a lovely, what do you call this? A storm chart?
A mind map.
A mind map. I love it. It's so, you got to see this, guys. The circles are really perfect. You use something to make these circles. I definitely
used a Word document with the circles.
Oh, it's a Word document.
Yeah.
It looks like those, what are they called? In school they say the web, the thought of web.
Oh, yeah. Well, I definitely am not that cool to make those cool circles. So,
they're lovely.
Thank you.
But these are just some of the topics that we want to cover in this podcast. And in the future, we'll probably reach out and see what kind of topics you guys want us to cover. We're just so qualified. I feel like you're qualified. And I just talk about my life a little bit. So
you're absolutely qualified. We're qualified in our own way. You don't have to all be social workers.
You're
okay?
You're so
your
real.
Own qualifications.
My qualifications is life. That's all I got. All right, so
you have a business degree.
I have a business degree,
and you have children.
And I have children. That
one of them who's probably getting in trouble right now.
Yeah, but, he's tearing something up. I can hear the paper ripping. We're just gonna let him do that. I hope it's not money. Don't tear up those dollar bills. All right. So these are some of the things you wrote down. We're gonna talk a lot about relationships. And again, these are all. He's eating potato chips. Perfect. Yes. That'll keep him busy for another 3 minutes. We're going to talk about relationships. We're going to talk about what it means to let go of fear, what it means to overcome things in your life, what it means. We talked about friendship today in your 30s, what that means to us and how we go about those. Loving from a distance, breaking patterns. Empathy. God, I love that word.
I love that word.
I love authenticity, which is a really hard thing to do.
Oh, yeah.
We live in a day and age where you put yourself out there and you just really hope that people who are complete strangers respond to you in a good way. Mm-hmm. Failure. I think this says beauty strangers. That's not what that says. I can't read that. And then what does that say?
Beauty standards.
Beauty standards is better than beauty strangers. And dealing with anxiety. Oh my God, that's going to be a big one. We're going to have to do an hour show for dealing with anxiety.
Gosh.
Because that is just, I think, now that I realize I have anxiety and I go to therapy, I think everyone has anxiety. And I'm like, you need to go to therapy. I feel like I tell people that all the time. And in the background, you can hear my son humming while he eats potato chips. Don't worry, though, they're the
really
baked kind
authentic.
and they're 60% less fat.
I'm not judging.
Because I'm a healthy, loving mom.
I love it. Well, we don't know what we're doing next, but it'll be one of those, so be surprised. Thank you for listening. We're just so happy that you're here with us as we just
voyage.
Yes, through friendship.
We're gonna
in our
voyage
30s. Picture us on a boat. I don't like water, but I just picture like a old like a pirate ship.
Yes, son.
We're gonna go voyage.
All right. Well, my chaos has now consumed the room. So we're going to say goodbye for now.
Goodbye for now.
Have a great week. And I guess subscribe. We don't even have a button
We don't
yet.
even know what that means
We don't know that we did. But
Subscribe in the
prescribe.
future.
Don't prescribe, but subscribe. Have a great day, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.